Hey guys, welcome back to BALLCAP Sports. So the biggest free agent still on the market has signed with the Cincinnati Reds, Nicholas Castellanos, a 4-year deal, $64 million to go to the Reds. Now, it does have an opt-out after year one. Listen, 4 years, $64 million is kind of a good deal for the production that Castellanos put up last year. And if he does it again in 2020, you got to think he's going to use that opt-out and go somewhere where he's going to try to get into that at least $20 million a year range. He's only going to be 28 for the 2020 season. So he's actually best, if he has a big year, to opt out, because then he can try to get a long-term deal that'll take him into his mid-30s with a pretty good salary attached to it. Let's break Castellanos down real quick. Last year in Detroit, 100 games, 11 home runs, 37 RBIs, and 37 doubles, a 790 OPS. Then he gets traded to the Cubs, where he explodes. 16 home runs, 51 games, 36 RBIs, 21 doubles, and an OPS of 1,000. The way he makes contact with the ball, the way he drives the ball, the sweet spot for him in Detroit, anyway, it would land in right center field because that's where he's driving the ball. In Chicago, it was flying out. So that's why you saw the power production really go. And there's a sabermetric stat, expected home runs. It takes into account, fly balls and contact rate and a whole bunch of other things. And his expected home run number was always higher than his actual home run production. It was so the situation just wasn't conducive for him to maximize his power. And it was in Chicago. It wasn't in Detroit. So for his career, he's a 277, 326, and 471 slash line guy with a 797 OPS, 120 home runs, 229 doubles, way more doubles than home runs because of where he was playing his games. So it's a nice fit with the Reds. Let's talk about that real quick. Let's actually take a look at the Reds depth chart. So where does he play? Last year with the Cubs and the Tigers, he played right field and a few games in the left field, but primarily was in right field. During his career with the Tigers, he had played a lot of third base. Now, you look at the Reds depth chart, they've got Suarez at third base. In right field, they've got Aquino with that big power surge, and then you got Senzel and Winker in center and left. Now, what I think could potentially happen here is Winker could move to center field, Senzel could move to shortstop, and unfortunately, Freddie Galvis is the odd man out. If you're building for the future of your franchise, Freddie Galvis is sort of a veteran. He's the old man of the squad. And you got Aquino, Senzel, and Winker, all young. You want to keep developing them. You don't want to, halt their process by making them a platoon or a bench guy. So you'll probably have Aquino either in right or left, and you put Castellanos where you don't put Aquino. And Senzel goes back to short, which is where he played a lot in the minor leagues and where he came up. Because you can't put him at third. You can't put him at second. Can't put him at first. Again, Galvis is probably the odd man out unless you get a situation where Winker or Senzel struggle in spring training, and then maybe you justify starting one of them at AAA. So that's the situation with the Reds and the depth chart. Now, where he signed was always going to be important. He couldn't go somewhere where the ballpark wasn't going to help him out. And I think in Cincinnati, he made the right choice. He was looking at the Rangers. That was the other team for many weeks was rumored to be in the mix for him. But he ends up going to Cincinnati, and I think that's good. Now, in his career, he's actually only played 8 games at Great American Ballpark, 7 for 35, a 219 average, but 4 home runs. So he was hitting the ball out. 4 of his 7 hits were home runs. That's big. It's a great sign for what he could do if you played 81 games at Great American Ballpark. And where he's going to be on the road is also important. He's going to play most of his road games in the Central. So he'll be back at Wrigley for a lot of games this year. 391 average, 11 homers, and 31 career games at Wrigley Field. So he'll feel at home when he's on the road in Chicago. He'll also be playing a lot of games at Pittsburgh. He's hit well there. 18 games, a 302 average, and 2 home runs. And Miller Park, 9 for 30 with 2 home runs and a 300 average in 7 games. So it was a wise decision to stay in the Central. If you weren't going to stay with the Cubs, which that was sort of, evident from day one, where's the next best place to go? And I think Cincinnati was it. He's done well in National League ballparks. It makes sense for him to stay in the National League, and it's a good decision by Castellanos. Now, one of the things I've been doing, if you've seen the videos on the channels, I've been doing 2020 projections. I'm going to sneak in Castellanos' 2020 projection to this video right now. So last year, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, his home run total finally matched up with his expected home run number. And again, that's a sabermetric stat. So the power is real. The power that we saw last year is not a blip. He's not going to drop back down to 18 home runs or something like that. He's still going to be a power hitter, especially staying in the Central and going to the Reds. Here's his projection for 2020. 91 runs scored, 27 home runs, 90 runs batted in, and a 288, 335, and 513 slash line. If the Reds get that, that'll be great, and he will most certainly opt out at the end of the year and go cash in. He may stay with the Reds. He may cash in with the Reds again, pull a Steven Strasburg. I've got a couple more years with you guys, but I'm going to opt out because I've got this chance and I'm going to make more money. I'll stay, but I'm going to make more money. Same thing could happen here. So that's the situation with Castellanos. He's signed. He's with the Reds. It's a 4-year deal, $64 million, but he can opt out after 1 year if he has that big year. We just went through the projection. If he has that kind of year, he will opt out. So that's all for this one. Castellanos to the Reds. Now we're kind of shifting our focus to Puig. Where does he land? He's probably the biggest name still out there. We'll watch that, and we'll be back on when he signs. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.